Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. So you know what they say about crypto, when it rains, it pours. And today we're seeing quite the downpour. But before you start panicking, stick with me, because I'm going to break down exactly what's happening and why this might actually be great news for the bigger picture. So here's the scene today. Everything's looking pretty red across the board. XRP has dropped almost 7%. I'm checking the charts right now, and yep, we're sitting at around that mark. Earlier today, it was actually over 7%. So we're seeing some slight recovery, but let's call it what it is. It's been a rough day. And it's not just crypto that's taking a hit. The entire market is feeling the pressure. The S&P 500, Russell 2000, you name it, it's down. Which is actually pretty fascinating when you think about it, because we've had some genuinely good news over the past couple of days. In fact, just yesterday, I was wondering out loud in my video whether today might turn into one of those classic sell the news events. I wasn't completely convinced either way, but I had a feeling it could happen. And well, here we are. Here's the thing though, and this is really important. We've actually gotten some major clarity on two huge issues that have been hanging over the market like storm clouds. And you know what markets love more than anything? Predictability. Even when people are selling the news in the short term, having that uncertainty lifted is ultimately bullish for risk-on assets like XRP and crypto. Now, I know a lot of analysts have been warning that we could see some short-term turbulence, and honestly, they're looking pretty smart right about now. But here's what I want you to remember. This doesn't mean we're heading for disaster, not even close. Actually, this is exactly how market bottoms are formed. I know that might sound counterintuitive when you're watching your portfolio bleed red, but it's the truth. And here's some good news for you chart watchers out there. According to basically every technical analyst I follow, nothing is broken on the higher timeframes. The big picture is still intact. Let me give you the numbers. XRP is sitting at $2.43 right now, and Bitcoin is at $107,877. But check this out. The 24-hour lows tell an interesting story. XRP touched $2.39 about 2.5 hours before I started recording this, and Bitcoin dropped as low as $106,690. Now, if you're looking at the charts on screen, here's something really important to notice. The XRP and Bitcoin charts look virtually identical. They're moving in perfect tandem. This tells us something crucial. There's absolutely nothing wrong with XRP specifically. The entire asset class is just moving together, which is totally normal in situations like this. XRP's fundamentals are stronger than ever, folks. Markets just do what markets do sometimes. There's no reason to panic here. I'm certainly not worried, and neither should you be. So what actually triggered all this selling? Well, part of it is definitely that classic sell the news reaction. CoinDesk put out a headline this morning that really captures it perfectly. Bitcoin tests $110,000 as traders sell the news on Fed-cut US-China deal. And you know what? We actually got some fantastic news yesterday. The Fed cut the federal funds rate by 25 basis points. That's 0.25% for those keeping track. Even better, we learned that quantitative tightening is ending on December 1st. Now, that doesn't mean quantitative easing is starting right away, but ending QT is definitely a step in the right direction. The only slightly less than perfect news from Jerome Powell was that he said another rate cut in December isn't a done deal. But even so, the market still thinks it's the most likely scenario. And then today, we got some really positive developments on the Trump tariff front. There was apparently a friendly meeting. I believe it was in Korea, and everything's looking good on that front too. So we're seeing broad indicators that things are moving in a fantastic direction. And guess what? That also triggered some sell the news action. But here's the thing I want to emphasize. None of this is catastrophic. I'm just pointing out how people behave in these situations. Yesterday, I was actually wondering whether there were even enough people positioned to actually sell the news, because leading up to this, there was so much fear in the market that tons of people were sitting on the sidelines. Maybe that's exactly why this sell the news event feels a bit more muted than it could have been. But these are all temporary reactions, folks.
Here's what really matters. After people finish selling the news, what does the market have? Clarity. We've gone from uncertainty, all those headwinds I just mentioned, to having a clear picture of where things stand. And remember what I said earlier? Markets absolutely love predictability. So moving forward, this is actually going to look really good for us. And I'm not the only one who thinks so. Tom Lee from Fundstrat Capital, this guy's got 546,000 followers. He's regularly on CNBC, and he's absolutely legendary in the crypto world. He just weighed in on this. He's asking, will Trump stating USA and China prosper together? His answer? That's fantastic news for trade relations, great news for equities, and maybe especially great news for crypto. Now sure, we're seeing a sell the news event today, but that doesn't change the bigger picture. These flash-in-the-pan events don't matter when you're looking at what's going to happen for the rest of this market cycle. I'm completely on the same page as Tom Lee here. This is going to be good. Actually, it's going to be great. And get this, drops after FOMC days are totally normal. Chart analyst Alex Clay just shared this with his 198,000 followers, and it's pretty eye-opening. He's highlighting a clear pattern. FOMC drop, then new Bitcoin all-time high. And he's written that 3 times because this pattern has played out consistently over the last few FOMC meetings. Here's how it goes. FOMC day happens, Jerome Powell says his thing, the market drops, and then Bitcoin hits a new all-time high. Alex is basically saying, yesterday we dumped again, so guess what? A new all-time high is probably loading. Honestly, that wouldn't surprise me at all. I just don't think this market cycle is over for Bitcoin, and ending this cycle without a proper alt season, that would be absolutely wild. I'm just not buying that scenario. Crypto Wizard is echoing the exact same sentiment. He wrote, after FOMC, it seems there is a pattern following the June, July, and September FOMC events. Bitcoin declined before rallying to a new all-time high. Since FOMC yesterday, the market has dumped. Will it repeat the pattern? He posted that just over an hour ago, and he's noticing the exact same thing we are. The bottom line? This is not the end of the world, my friends. The market's going to rebound. We're not done here. Here's another great example from Crypto Wizard's Bitcoin price analysis. He said, back to support after calling the upside rally. I warned a retest of $110,500 can occur whilst filling the CME gap. And guess what? That's exactly what happened. Now, Bitcoin needs buyers to step back in. If they do, we could see a breakout that triggers an inverse head and shoulders pattern, and that would be very bullish. I want to share something really interesting from the on-chain analytics firm Santiment. They posted this morning at 10:49 a.m. about how Bitcoin's dip has led to a flood of bearish price predictions. They're tracking calls for $50,000 to $100,000 in blue, and $150,000 to $200,000 calls in red. And right now, it's pretty heavily skewed toward the bearish side. But here's their key insight. Markets move opposite to the crowd's expectations. Therefore, a relief rally is probable while FUD is peaking like it is now. And you know what? That makes perfect sense to me. Nothing's ever certain in this game, but if we're talking probabilities, I'd definitely vote for up rather than down from here. I'm not saying we're literally at the bottom this very second, but the odds are looking pretty good. Credible Crypto shared some thoughts this afternoon that really put things in perspective. He said, Bitcoin is just barely clinging on to the daily demand zone here, and that he would have preferred it held for some relief before another swing lower. But here's the crucial part. He emphasizes this doesn't change the big picture at all. Even if we drop below $100,000, anything above $74,000 is just short-term noise in his opinion. He's posting this as a reminder so people don't lose their minds and panic sell if this zone doesn't hold. And get this, he actually thinks that if we do break down from here, it might speed up the correction process, which means we could move on to the next expansion phase sooner. The key takeaway? Don't panic. Everything's fine. We could go way lower without the charts being fundamentally broken. Mustache Altcoins has an interesting take too. He says, the rotation from gold and stocks to crypto is currently taking place. Takes time, so be patient. Of course, they want to buy your alts at a bargain price before they send it. I see no reason to panic. The higher time frame looks solid, just a bear trap.
Now, I'm not sure about the stocks to crypto rotation part. Crypto and stocks are both risk-on assets that typically move together. But the gold to Bitcoin rotation, that definitely has historical precedent. Funny thing is, while both equities and crypto were down today, gold was actually up a bit. Classic inverse correlation at work. Bobby A made a really interesting call back on October 10th. That was one of those big liquidation days a few weeks ago. He said, Ethereum will outperform damn near everything out of this correction. He reposted that reminder this afternoon, so he's still bullish on the bigger picture. Now, I do want to be balanced here. Chart analyst Zoom shared his XRP/USD analysis, and he's not thrilled with what he's seeing. He said XRP broke back down into the consolidation zone, and this isn't looking too good on the charts. Fair enough, the whole market is down right now, so that's not exactly shocking news. That's why I keep saying, let's put this in context. There's nothing fundamentally broken with XRP, and Zoom isn't claiming there is either. What does it tell us when the XRP chart looks identical to the Bitcoin chart right now? Simple. There's absolutely nothing wrong with XRP specifically. It's just moving with the broader market. CW posted something this morning that caught my attention. High leverage long positions on XRP are dead. Look, I'm going to be blunt here. Betting with leverage is just stupid. Period. As I always say, if you're going to short XRP, you're going to be wrong most of the time because this chart trends up and to the right. Why play that dangerous game? You don't need to. You're only doing it because, well, let's just say it doesn't make much sense. Sure, a small percentage of the time you might be wrong in the short term if you're long XRP, but big picture, shorting just doesn't add up. Why not just hold spot XRP and chill for however long it takes to build life-changing wealth? Because that strategy actually works. Chart analyst Zima just dropped some wisdom for the XRP community, and I love this perspective. He says, I see some gurus preaching for the end of the cycle. Bros, it is hard to see this range as anything less than a long reaccumulation after November's surge. In Elliott wave terms, he's calling this an A-B-C pattern with a sharp ending in the C wave, basically a very common final shakeout or spring. And get this, he's comparing it to a gold chart from years ago. XRP on the left, gold on the right, and the chart structures are almost identical. His point? This is totally normal. We had that massive surge in November, and now we're in reaccumulation mode, which is historically par for the course. He still believes the final major leg up is coming. This is just noise. Welcome to crypto bull markets, folks. Dramatic pullbacks happen. No need to be scared. Casey Trades shared some technical analysis that's worth noting. She says, XRP is reacting exactly as expected after rejecting the Wave 4 resistance near $2.68. Price is now turning bearish, and RSI is making a new low,
starting to confirm that wave 5 down is underway. The key support levels she's watching are $2.42, $2.30, and $1.65. Breaking below $2.42 would confirm continuation toward those lower targets. Now, I should mention, we did briefly dip below that level, but it was a very quick wick, so maybe it doesn't necessarily count. She's suggesting this could complete the final wave of the correction before a massive wave 3 impulse up. And here's something crucial I want to point out. All these analysts who are acknowledging that XRP and crypto markets could go lower, about 0% of the ones I follow think we're actually entering a bear market. They're all saying the same thing. Yeah, it could go down. There are warning signs, but then we're going to rampage to the upside. That's what I consistently see across the board. Casey continues, once the bottom forms, the next impulse should be fast and obvious, cutting through resistance on the way to new highs as price approaches wave 5 support. I'm watching RSI for bullish divergence to confirm exhaustion. A new RSI extreme would mean further lows are expected. Fair enough, that's solid technical analysis. But here's what I want you to remember. There's still a very real opportunity for XRP to rampage higher, sooner rather than later, ultimately hitting those double-digit price targets that most of the analysts I follow still expect. Just because we've had this pullback today doesn't mean they're freaking out, and neither should you. Let me give you some perspective that might blow your mind. If someone had told me 1 year ago that Bitcoin would be at $107,000 today, XRP would be sitting at $2.43, and Ethereum would be pushing $3,800, I would have been absolutely thrilled.
The market has been fantastic. The total crypto market cap is sitting at $3.54 trillion right now. Before the election, it was around $2.2 trillion. Even with today's pullback, we're still up substantially. And if you zoom out and let enough time pass, years, decades, this market is just going to keep trending up and to the right. So why are you freaking out? XRP is already an early winner in the crypto space. It already won. We don't have to question whether it's going to make it anymore. That already happened. We just don't know exactly how long it's going to take to reach even higher prices. But that doesn't mean it won't happen. You want to know what my conviction is? Higher, ultimately, because utility matters, and utility will win the day. Just remember, I'm not a financial advisor, so always do your own research and make your own decisions.